Good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is the Commissioner's special meeting of September 16th in order to discuss primarily CARES Act small business grant relief. We're going to dispense with many of our customs, but what we will start with is I would ask that everyone would stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. A moment of silence so we can follow. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This meeting is being recorded, and anything said in the meeting is part of public record and will be posted on the county's YouTube channel in the near future. Normally I would move on to public comment at this point, but before getting to that, I would like to talk a little bit about why we're here today and let the other two commissioners offer some thoughts as kind of preparatory before we open up for public comment. And then the main thing that we'll be doing today is taking a simple up or down vote on the round one small business grant applications that have been reviewed by our business liaison and the financial liaison. For a quick background, the county received about $3.5 million from the Commonwealth, ultimately from federal CARES Act legislation. We've divvied that up between many different stakeholders and programs, but the bulk of it, $2.2 million, is set aside for the small business grant program. The remaining funds are used for wages and PPE related to COVID-19 response, fire and EMS agencies, municipalities, information technology, and broadband initiatives. The county started this small business grant program, which I really have to credit with Commissioner Eggleston and Commissioner Durbin for putting their heads together and creating the ultimate policy that became the small business grant program, which, by the way, also includes nonprofits and 501c3 nonprofits. And they crafted the policy, which we released about a month ago, and put out RFPs for business liaisons and financial liaisons that could help us in making a ultimate determination on what the true need is based on the threshold of round one of $1 million. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. So we hired Kersey and Associates and Haynes and Company, as well as the WCCBI, to serve as the liaison to applicants, so that the commissioners were set apart, impartial, and we're really just taking the recommendations of the financial entities that we hired to help facilitate this program. I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Durbin to talk about the proposal that's before us today, as well as the calculation and how the calculation was made, as well as any reasons that would be disqualifying or otherwise lead to an initial deferment to the next round. And then I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Eggleston to talk about the phases that are upcoming and what next steps could be taken. So, Commissioner Durbin?
Sure. So, a couple things. The total allocable amount for round one was a maximum of $1 million. We engaged, as Ben said, that with both WCCBI to help those who were lacking in maybe some financial expertise to help the employers and businesses fill out the application, as well as get all the information that were required. Haynes and Company and Kersey, who are very knowledgeable about businesses, looked at each application once it was complete and carefully thought through two things. By utilizing the period from March 1st to July 31st of 2019 and comparing that to that same period in 2020, what was the change in revenue? What was the impact of COVID year against year? And then secondly, taking into consideration if there was still net income in the business or if it was actually a net loss. And then thirdly, the actual ask that was on the application. Some in the round one situation, you'll see there that were zeros, may or may not be zeros because they're not eligible, but because they don't have all of the information that was necessary to make a determination. So kind of wanted to make sure that we got things to the public as quickly as possible, and for those that still need information, then you can follow up with the WCCBI and Haynes and Kersey. So that being said, that's the process that we used. Those are the entities that we felt had the financial expertise and also the business expertise to help make recommendations, and then of course look at the limit of $1 million. As Commissioner Kafferlin said, 501c3s were the only nonprofit, and 501c19s were the two nonprofits that were eligible. So some in our community are nonprofits that are established under 501c4. Unfortunately, when the CARES Act came out, they only allowed two different types of nonprofits. So we didn't really have a choice in that, but that would be what would not allow some other nonprofit not to be able to be part of this program. So with that, I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming today, and thank you for coming today and having being here to be a part of this program and your interest in it. We have multiple phases for this, so if there's anybody here who's looking at the list and feeling like like they should get more, or that maybe they didn't get anything, or there's some kind of a situation like that, there are other options. So right now we're in another grant window, and we will be for the next week and a half, and then there's a third grant window in October. Each of those is $500,000, and so all of these will carry over to that grant window and be reviewed there as well. And if there's more documentation that's needed, it'll be evaluated then as well. And depending upon how the types of applications we get during those grant windows, the parameters of the program can change. Our general perspective on this has been to try to help as many people as we possibly can with the money. And we've tried to look at it every possible way we could, given the Treasury's requirements. The nonprofit thing is a perfect example of our hands being tied in a way that we probably would prefer not to be, just because there are a lot of organizations we'd like to help what we can, and if we give them money, there's a very good possibility that the Treasury would come back and take the money back from us if we didn't give it out. So just wanted to make that clear. So there's still, there's $1 million today. If we vote and approve this, that will basically be dispensed. Then the remaining $1 million plus is going to be in the next two phases. So there'll be roughly $500,000 in the second phase, which is right now, and then there'll be another $500,000 in October to be handed out. So I highly recommend anyone that's has more of a loss or a liability that they want to address to continue. It's not me.
I don't know where my phone is.
To follow up in those rounds, and also, I highly recommend that you continue to talk to the WCCBI and try to get them as much information as you can. They're trying to do everything they can to help everybody, get that information.
So in this first round, there were 64 applicants through the SBA, and the accountants were recommending 40 of them get some level of funding. That's an average recommendation of $24,423. The reason that 20-some applicants were suggested that we push off further had to do with either their registration as an organization or a failure to provide appropriate documentation before the round was closed, or simply because their losses were expected to happen more in the latter part of the year. So the recommendation was to defer off to a following round. So at this point, I promised that there would be time for public comment. I'm sure you all have the list in front of you. So ultimately, what we're going to be doing here at the board today is voting yay or nay on the proposal before us. We're not going to have the luxury of tinkering with it, so to speak. But nevertheless, we do want to offer a chance for you all to speak. So please keep your comments to at least within 5 minutes. But
I
yes.
just wanted to add a couple of really quick things. One is that we at no time had any conversation with the WCCBI about any of these applicants. So we've been provided the report from them, and this is based entirely on their work with the financial people. So I just wanted to be clear that we've not interacted with them in any way on any of these applicants, on their behalf or against them or anything. So this is entirely the work of their recommendations based on the parameters that were put forward.
Okay, at this time, any other comments from the commissioners? Very well. Public comment. Does anyone want to address the board?
I'd like to say something.
Sure, and please just state your name and the municipality you live in.
Do you want me to stand up?
I don't care.
Just- No, I'm Kathy Johnson, owner of The Point. Municipality is the city of Warren, but I am very thankful and grateful for all of your efforts to do this, because I got messed up in that whole SBA thing that you were supposed to get a grant, you were supposed to get a loan. I ended up getting nothing. So this is really, I really appreciate this. This will help me a lot. I just want to say thank you.
Do you mind if we follow up with you for testimonial?
No?
I'm sorry, I should put you on the spot.
No, fine, no, I'm just like, I'm so used to being told that the money's coming, and then it's like, nope, we ran out. And no, there's no one there to help you, so I'm really grateful, thank
Well,
you.
I guess all I would say is that's a perfect example of the type of story that we want
Yeah.
to address, because we've heard that
Oh.
multiple times.
Oh,
from
it's been
people,
dreadful.
Especially the small business community.
Oh, yeah, there's just, I mean, no one answers the phone. There's nobody to talk to. So this was, and you made it very easy. I appreciate that.
Sir?
My name is Robert Duffy. I'm representing the Moose Club. And I see that we are disqualified. Now, the disqualification, is it a technical issue? Is it on purpose or just a byproduct of this didn't cover it or that didn't cover it, therefore we fell through on a crack? Do anybody have any insight? No.
First of all, Robert, I wanted to apologize to you because we had a phone conversation where I had said to you, you're basically a business, you should apply, you'll get something.
We are.
And at the time that I told you that, I hadn't gone through all of the Treasury's requirements. So that was a mistake on my part, and so I'm sorry. I actually talked to Tina this afternoon about it, just to let her know that, the situation. So in your particular case, you're a 501c8. So that's another example of the type of organization that we would like to help. But if we give you money, the Treasury would come back and take it back from us. So it's not a requirement of ours, and I'm really sorry that.
Well, I appreciate all that. On behalf of the club, we do accept your apology. But the issue that I'm asking about is it intentional that they do not wish to support organizations in our category? Or is it just, this circle didn't cover this circle type thing? Did it fall through the crack, or is it intentional?
I would say, and I'm assuming I'm not talking out of turn, that it's a political issue. So in Congress, when they put the bill together, they could have had 501c4s, they could have 501c8s. The problem is that, yes, the Moose Club is in it, but there are other organizations that are in that bucket that they don't like, that they don't want to give money to. And so the only thing that they could agree on was 501c3s and 501c19s, because they're purely service, charitable organizations. Like this is the issue we have with the 501c4s, because there's a lot of fire departments that are 501c4s that don't qualify for this program, and they asked us, like, well, why are we singled out? Why didn't we get help? When the 501c3s did, and the only thing that we can say is that you need to call your congressman because it's an issue that the Congress, the Treasury, and the administration need to fix, like as far as.
So your interpretation is very specific and went into it knowledgeable about we're not going to support that type of
Well,
organization.
that category is very broad. So there are a lot of different organizations that are in it, and that's the issue. So if you open it up beyond the 501c3s, then you're giving money to the NRA, or you're giving money to Planned Parenthood, or you're giving money to X, Y, and Z, pick your political organization that somebody has an issue with. And they didn't want to deal with that, and I'm assuming that for most of them it was a non-starter, like as far as authorizing it, so they swept it all away and just said 501c3s, 501c19s, because the organizations that are in those, there weren't any that anybody had an issue with. It pains me to say that, that's not the way it should work. From my perspective, they should have taken a broader view of it, but, you know, we're here doing the best we can with what we've been dealt, along with, you know.
Well, at the county level, I have no problem at all.
Okay.
It is the adjudication of
Yeah.
what we're specifically doing here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I appreciate you being understanding about it, you know, because you're in a difficult situation like everybody else.
okay,
Thank you. Other public comment? Hearing none. I guess we'll close public comment then. First item of business on the agenda is a very quick and easy thing I missed on my IT list the other day on our last Wednesday meeting. Something that was sent to us from the Information Technology Department for What's Up Gold, which is a network solution which would enable IT to monitor all of the IT assets in the county domain remotely, which means that they wouldn't have to physically come in. It also has added benefits in that if the system goes down, like the 911 system did a couple of days ago, they would be able to know that in a heartbeat with a text message rather than having to have the system go down, physically send people in to figure out which server went down and that sort of thing. So the quote is here before you, and I apologize for missing it in my list from last Wednesday. With that, I'd ask for a motion to approve the quote before us.
I'll make the motion to approve the quote of, for $5,078.75.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion.
This is CARES eligible, right?
It's out of the Municipal IT
Okay.
CARES Act, yep. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is the Round 1 Small Business Grant Application Program. We've already discussed it. I would ask if there is a motion to approve the list that's before us today.
I'll make the motion to approve the Round 1 Small Business Grant for a total of $976,914.
I will second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
I just wanted to just quickly add that we've reviewed all of the information provided by the WCCPI, Percy, and Haynes, and found it to be in good order. That's the reason why we're improving the report that they've provided. We felt like they were pretty fair across the board, and just wanted everybody to know that the county has taken as critical an eye to this as we possibly can.
I think we also understand that it doesn't necessarily make your organization whole.
Yeah.
It's just doing what we can for our community in an equal way. If there's nothing more, then all those in favor of the motion to approve Round 1 SBG program, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed likewise, motion carries. All right, thank you very much. Any commissioner comments?
The one last thing I'll say is for those that are here that have a successful application, the WCCI will be following up with you in order to get a W-9, I believe, and then they'll issue checks within 10 days of this vote, so you should be receiving the money very quickly. You have to provide the W-9 first, but my assumption is that it's
That's
worth
your
it to you to
EIN
do it
number.
rather quickly.
Is that the EIN number?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
For the
basically,
most part, yeah.
Yeah.
it should take 5 minutes, but, you know,
Yeah.
who knows?
Okay, great.
All right, if there's nothing more, then I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
No second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.